It's the city, 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 it's the city with the vibe. It's the city, it's the city, it's the city.
Good afternoon. It is April 30th, 2025. I'm Danielle from the CE team, and you're chilling with SacVibes, the local government podcast where we educate, engage, and empower residents from the city of Sacramento. I'm gonna pass it to my left.
That's his favorite thing to do.
I know.
He always waits for that. I'm your co-host, Lynette, and we're here with
our guests here. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
My name is Reyes Rios. I'm the chair of the Sacramento Youth Commission, and I'm a sophomore at Leeward Green Academy.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Domynique Herndon. I serve as the program coordinator in the Civic Engagement Unit. We're also called the CE team.
Hey.
Ah,
We're like twinsies.
We are.
okay.
Government institution twinsies. And I'm Greg. I'm the last host for the CE SacVibes.
Meow, you didn't give yourself a little buzzer.
So how's everybody doing today? How was everybody's weekend? Kind of gloomy.
Yeah,
Good.
it was a good weekend. I never remember what I did. What did I do? I do a lot of stuff outside of work. So a lot of community work, a lot of I think I recorded another podcast. I remember riding my bike somewhere. It's like so many things happening that I'm just trying to like remember the good things that are happening. We
I
had
can't believe it's almost May.
yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May.
What you do this weekend, Danielle?
Am I allowed to talk about my grief, or is that like sponsorship at the
Grief?
mall?
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it the end of the era at Forever 21 shopping?
Okay, no, actually that's also wild because I used to get all my clothes from Forever 21 in high school because they were cheap, you know? I mean, they obviously did not last that long, but it's kind of weird seeing all them closed down. But no, my grief is I tried lining up at the mall at 5 a.m. for a Labubu.
Oh,
Again, this is the second time. My colleagues know I've tried before. I waited another 5 hours and gave up. So...
I think that's the thing that I took a picture of when I went to...
So that wasn't the. So there are fake ones that are called Lafufus.
That was a fake one? Oh, Boise, Idaho, you guys are out of pocket. It was in the mall.
You thought you came up on a Labubu? I got Labubu.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
Yeah, I thought I was the only
Yeah, I'm
one
like,
who
I
was
don't
like
know.
that.
What is it? Boo-boo.
You're going to
No,
be like...
No, good.
Yeah.
Don't.
Are they like similar to Sunny Angels? Because I know those are like.
I
really
guess,
popular.
yeah, very. So they're like little keychains, and they recently got super popular, and they're really hard to get now. They weren't like that before, but yeah, people were there driving in from the Bay Area, from Central Valley,
Oh, my
and
God.
they were there waiting until 10 p.m.
Wait, how long? What?
Sorry. Well, actually, no, I'm not kidding. Grand opening.
Okay.
The mall typically closes at 8. That store closed at like 11 because there were so many people in line. I got there at
Dang.
5 a.m. I was still 500.
That is ridiculous.
I left.
What time did you leave?
I left at like 9.
Okay.
So the rest of the world is falling apart, and people are in line to get a Labubu.
Everyone was like, I hope I see y'all in line for church or to vote.
Or learning the fan dance on.
Yeah.
Federal government losing their jobs, but we in line for
Sorry.
Labubu.
That was my salty moment for a second. How was everyone else this weekend? You, Lynette?
My weekend was good, but you mentioned Forever 21. I went above and beyond in Idaho at Forever 21. We bought so much stuff. They had to give us boxes. They didn't have any
Dang.
boxes to leave.
Like it was Costco.
And then it was so ridiculous. We had to get help outside, and then I had to buy luggage to get everything back because we flew there. So I had to buy like 2 suitcases.
Is the exchange rate in Boise, Idaho different or
Did you get
something?
it because it was like on like clearance or something? Because it's closing?
It was
or-
ridiculous. Like I got like a jacket for like $8, like a nice jacket. Everything was like 90% off. Like
Wow.
it was. I went crazy.
Get in now before the
So,
tariffs hit.
Yeah,
You gotta get in before the tariffs.
the tariffs.
crazy.
Temu, what is it? Shein, it's coming for you.
Oh my
man.
God, that's the worst.
And
Like,
Fashion
Or
Nova.
just-
Can we
Yeah,
get
Fashion Nova.
Fashion Nova is definitely coming
right.
for
What's
you.
Fashion Nova?
It's a fast fashion website where you buy clothes. Kind of like the
really
new,
cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, the new Forever 21. That's why it's the end of the era for forever.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are into World's Worst and thrifting. So
Oh, those are fun.
Oh, let's trade kids. Like,
Those are
yeah,
fun.
man, I'm proud of them. I didn't even have to force that on them. I came from the generation that used to be embarrassed to go to Kmart back in the day.
we got the youth commission. I shouldn't be talking about trading kids. I'll keep the kid. Let me take that back. I'm sure your parents wouldn't trade you. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't.
Yeah. Different times.
Different times. But exciting stuff happening. So, of course, it's council. Some council updates. And before we go into council updates, today was a big day. So our proposed budget for next fiscal year came out this afternoon. So I'm sure people are going online to read it. So if you go online to the city of Sacramento and put in proposed budget and search terms, it'll come right there. So some exciting news coming there. But council last night was long. Oh my goodness. They had like one agenda item.
Really?
What?
That was like forever, but it was so important. So it was actually, it was a workshop, a homeless workshop.
Okay.
Staff was getting some direction from council on some strategies, approval for some strategies on how to address our homeless situation. They talked about kind of where we were, where we are now. Although we've reduced our unhoused population by almost 30%, there's still over 3,000 people that are still unsheltered. And so they are looking at some different avenues. Before, they were looking at like safe camping sites, and they realized that that's not the best approach because it doesn't really provide the wraparound services that folks need. And so they're having to kind of shift from that. And then just lack of funding. So the impact on the national and the state level when it comes to funding has been a challenge. We currently have about 1,300 shelter beds available. There's about 18 shelters throughout the city, and that's over $30 million a year. So it's very expensive.
For 1,800?
For about 1,300
Okay.
with 18 shelters.
18 shelters.
18
Okay.
shelters. And there were some ideas around, you have some of our unhoused neighbors who do have income coming in. It's not a lot. So some of them have Social Security, different disability, just different things. And so there was an idea around having them pay something. And there were some pros and cons where folks felt like it was unfair to ask unhoused folks to spend a portion of their income. And then other folks felt like maybe that would be because that's how everybody does, right? Like a lot of people spend a lot of their income, whether you work or not, goes towards housing. So it would be a small amount, but just to offset some of the wraparound service fees. So the city is just trying to be flexible, kind of learning from other places what works, what doesn't work. And so it was a long conversation, but a very much needed workshop.
Oh, that's good. Was there... Okay, I'm not going to ask.
Well,
I'm just curious.
Well, do we know who led the workshop?
So the workshop was led by the Department of Community Response.
Okay.
In partnership with our
Too much
housing.
into specifics, but was it brought up how many? Like I know you said we have 1,300 beds. Like how many of those homeless people were getting transitioned out of that?
I'm sure it was. I don't know the exact amount of how many were getting kind of transitioned out, but
That's a great question. I would have asked the same
and
thing.
I'm glad that you mentioned just how like expensive it takes to run this, and also the fact that our proposed budget came out today. I mean, just to remind folks that like now that the proposed budget is out, now is the time to come to council and let them know where you like whether or not you have any feedback for the budget, where should the money go, all that. So just because this draft is out doesn't mean it's set stone.
That's right.
So important services that you want to see be continued, things that you want to see being implemented that are new, come to council
yeah, but
every Tuesday.
one of the things that they do have is a coordinated access system so that they can track people coming into the system and being able to indicate when they're actually housed and are receiving services. So there is a system in place so that information can be pulled at any time.
Oh, that's cool.
And for May, the council meetings are they for public feedback about the budget, or is there other things that are going to be happening too?
I'm not sure because the agenda hasn't come out that far in advance, but the proposed budget, which is currently online right now, that will be discussed at council on May 13th.
Okay.
There may be other items, but on May 13th will be the day that council discusses the proposed budget.
Okay. And council has till maybe mid to end June to approve the budget?
It has to be done by June 30th. Typically, they do it a little bit earlier in June, but statutorily, June 30th.
Okay.
New fiscal year starts July 1.
So you hear that. If you have any feedback you want people to know, you got to speak up starting in May.
May 13th, yeah.
May 13th.
Well, thank you so much for that recap and for the reminder that we, have some very important council meetings coming up. But also,
all council meetings are important.
Of course.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I always encourage people to check the agenda because I always tell people every week decisions are being made about you without you. So just look at the agenda to figure out if it's something that's going to impact you. I don't expect people to come to every council, but don't come when it's too late. Come before the funding is allocated.
Oh, yeah. My bad. I was just so excited. I wanted to get to meet our new guests. So, Greg, can you please let us know who's joining us at the table today?
Yeah. So before I do that, I wanted to do a quick recap. As you know, last week we talked about commissions, boards, and committees. Not last week, but 2 weeks ago. And those roles at the city. A lot of these commissions and bodies are advisory, but there are some that have some kind of power in terms of like redistricting, for example, or planning where they are, determining zoning for specific areas. So we have a youth commissioner here as our guest and Domynique Herndon, who is the staff person dedicated to staffing the youth commission. So welcome, guys, to our podcast, SacVibes.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So first, let's talk with you, Reyes.
And he's the chair.
And that's
so
right.
I think
You're
he
the
should
chair.
be Chair Reyes.
Chair Reyes. Would you like to be referred to as Chair Reyes?
Yeah, it's usually Chair Rios, but that
Chair
works
Rios.
fine too.
Okay. So tell me why you applied to be a commissioner.
So I applied to be a commissioner because I would, obviously spend time with other youth at school and see disparities that they saw in their community and both that I saw in my community too. And I didn't see it as something that was so out of reach, but something that could be achieved if we all banded together and work towards the same goal. And more than that, I think it's not just a unique experience for me to see those disparities. I think that problems in their community can be seen by so many youth across Sacramento. And it's really just about standing up and taking initiative towards it to get something done. And that's what I saw the commission as.
Okay. And how has that been for you so far?
It's been a great experience, really. It's opened me up to so many opportunities, opened up so many doors to work with amazing people such as you guys, and just being in so many community spaces where voices can be uplifted.
Sure. So speaking of community spaces, are there? I hear that you're very involved in community.
Yes.
What else do you do outside of the commission?
So outside of the commission, I work really closely with my council member's office. I attend a lot of events with
Who's
them.
your council member? Shout out your council member.
Karina Telemontes.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah, I live in District 3. Yeah, so I live in
Twinsies.
District 3. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of events with her as well, and getting out in my community and just even being in school too, going to different clubs and different organizations within my community to create a space that is welcoming to youth and that fosters their engagement in civics, really.
Okay, cool. And you kind of touched upon it a little bit, but tell me more. Why is it important to focus on young people in general when it comes to civic engagement?
Well, if we really look at the statistics, 20% of Sacramento is youth. So not necessarily even what Sacramento classifies as youth, which is 24 and under, So that's almost a third of the population. But we look at 18 and under, and that's 20% of our population.
Sure.
And so going to Sacramento's, 530,000 people, we can see almost 100,000 people that youth encapsulates, right? And so I think if it were really taken out of context, and if there were to be 100,000 people whose voices were being suppressed or who couldn't vote, I think it would be a really big deal, because it's adults in that sense, right? But when it's youth, there's almost sort of a exclusion. There's a more, they're put off to the side, and so a lot of that, can come from youth not being able to, stand up and project their voice and project what they see in the community or they want. But also it's about ensuring that adults create those spaces for youth as well.
Nice.
I love that.
Nice. Yeah, it's very important.
Because oftentimes you have adults creating programs for youth or services without the youth input, right? So makes a lot of sense.
So I think that's a great segue too, speaking of adults. So Domynique, you're the adult staff person.
They call me the adult ally, the guide by the side.
There you go.
The guide by the side.
What's
That's
up?
catchy.
I love that.
The guide by
Okay.
the side.
So tell us about your role aside from the guide on the side.
The guy by the side.
Yeah.
So really in my role is kind of broken up into a couple of different components. So serving as commission staff, being that liaison between the commissioners, our unit sometimes as well as the clerk's office, making sure that we have the staff reports for the business meetings and making sure that we also have the presenters to securing the presenters to be able to present at the business meetings.
Right.
That's one part of my role. Another part of the role is facilitating training. So developing the trainings and facilitating those trainings for commissioners like Rios and the whole commission to make sure that they have the skills necessary so when they get up to the dais, they feel prepared, they feel ready, they're confident in their role. And then newest kind of aspect of the work is developing and implementing program for our civic engagement unit, which our newest pilot program was semester at City Hall. So if you're familiar with the flagship program of our unit, it's summer at City Hall. So this was more of a condensed, concise version, able to reach all high school students because in the summer we can't take all, but we were able to take all high schoolers in the city that were accepted, and then they presented to the Youth Commission on their research findings that they did throughout the program.
Cool. So I'm sure it takes a specific skill set to work with young people and to be an ally. So I'm curious as to what you did before you came to the city.
I did a lot of work centered around young people, but in the nonprofit sector. So first I worked for a small local nonprofit, and I worked on a campaign called the Black Child Legacy Campaign to reduce African-American child deaths. Part of that role was also doing a year-long worth of participatory action research with a small group of youth. And then I transitioned from that role, still working with families, still working with young people, into an education specialist, working at a larger national nonprofit with, in conjunction with a housing authority to make sure that families still had those educational needs and supports so that their young people could still be successful. And a lot of work was in collaboration with the different school districts as well to make sure that all those loose ends are kind of closed.
Okay.
You got experience.
Got some experience.
I got to, I've been doing a little bit. Just a little
on the
bit.
side. Okay. So, in your opinion, why is it important to have a youth commission and have a focus on youth?
I think Commissioner Rios had a good perspective, and I think the perspective is also very popular, but I think I'm kind of looking at it from a different kind of lens. I think just because I've had experience working with young people, I think young people drive innovation.
That's right.
I think young people have those creative ideas that can help shape the outlook of what the city could be, what a program could be, what curriculum could be, right? So yes, they are a majority of our population. They are a vital and invaluable part of it, right? But they also push innovation in a way that sometimes adults just don't see. And I think that's because I really think they have more courage. They're not so bogged down by life. You know what I'm saying?
Entrenched.
Yeah, entrenched in the day-to-day, they got the bills and sometimes maybe the children, right? So they have a little bit more courage to push, to go, to innovate, to create. And I think that's why it's so important, because they push the innovation.
Right.
Well, I know having the opportunity to present to the Youth Commission opened up my eyes around our Community Ambassador Program, which is a cultural language justice program. But you all at the Youth Commission propose, isn't youth the culture? So shouldn't we have a seat on the community ambassador? And I came back to the team and I was like, we never thought about it before. And then came back to the team and I was just like, it is a culture. Like, you know, so it's definitely something that we are thinking about in the future. And if it wasn't for the Youth Commission proposing that, it's probably something that we wouldn't have been doing. So thank you for sparking the innovation and the idea.
And I think Domynique brought up a great point about just youth having the time. I mean, we have time, and it's about harnessing that time to, you know, direct it away from social media and other distractors that are, it's, you know, it's one TikTok swipe away from being gone forever, you know? And so it's like, how are we going to take those 2 minutes that you spent on a TikTok video and add them all up and, you know, create something that's so much more beneficial for the community?
Yeah.
Instead of just doom scrolling.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
I wanted to record that and just play it to my daughter all day. Like, you hear what he just said?
I can provide you with the clip.
Okay, thank you.
Terrorize your daughter.
Absolutely. Have it on repeat.
But I do want to make clear too is that, you know, sometimes I catch myself doom scrolling as well. You know, I'm not this, you know, some perfect youth, you know, that is just so involved, and I'm never going to be perfect. And, you know, I don't think nobody ever is going to be perfect, but I think it's about adjusting to the youth culture and, you know, using social media in a sense to harness creativity and harness courage, like Domynique said.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys scroll on our social media.
Okay.
See
Yes.
Team
I
Sac.
was about to ask, do you follow us?
I'm not sure.
It's okay.
okay.
You will.
You
after
would know.
today.
Do you
would
have
know.
Instagram, or is that too old for you?
No, I do have it too.
Okay.
And
We
I
did
wonder
They Not
too,
Like Us.
Oh.
if like from like youth perspective, if there's almost like an angle where, you know, people should be more involved because, you know, y'all are growing up into this, you know, atmosphere. Like, you're the ones going through all the policy changes and living with it longer comparatively to, like, you know, older folks. And so I think it's cool that you're, you know, you and the rest of the council's already so involved in your community, because you're actively shaping your communities into what you want it to be. And like, not just for y'all, but also your kids and all that. So
I'm just curious, like, when you're out there and your peers, you know, doing things in community, how was the whole youth commission received, and how do other young people react to it?
I believe that the youth commission is like really received very positively. They're not, you know, some sort of just kids that are, or just youth that are pushed to the side. I think they're really seen as equal partners, and they're often, you know, looked up upon as far as like, thank you so much for uplifting my voice, uplifting my my input that, you know, maybe I don't feel empowered to speak for myself. But it's also our position too to say, you know, your voice matters, and just because you feel like you can't project your voice doesn't mean that you have the ability to. And so it's about, you know, building a community of youth who feel comfortable with, you know, making change.
Right.
You guys are leaders.
Right. And you had mentioned that making that safe space. When preparing for this episode, you know, when I was talking with you, Domynique, I was surprised to learn about the capacity building or outcomes aspect and the skill building stuff that you do as part of the work. So you had mentioned the business meetings versus the capacity building trainings. Can you talk a little bit more about those two different components and
Sure.
how that works?
Yeah. So the business meetings, they happen every first Monday of the month down in council chambers at 5:30, and that's where you'll see Chair Rios, you'll see the full commission body up on the dais giving their feedback, recommendation, and advice to those different presenters that we have come and talk to them. So the CE team, like Lynette said, the CE team came, they did a presentation on their work, and then the commission provided their feedback, recommendation, and advice to Lynette and the team, right? So that's where they really have the opportunity to see what's happening at the city and then say, okay, well, I think there's some tweaks or the things that should be added here to make it a little bit more youth focused or youth friendly, and make sure that youth are actually engaging in the work.
Right.
That's the formal aspect of it. It gets a little informal. That's when the youth development side starts to come in when it comes to the capacity building trainings. And capacity building trainings are based on skills. skills that we know or we think that youth could benefit from. So when it comes to presenting, when it comes to leadership skills, when it comes to time management skills, when it comes to being able to understand the different civic aspects of the city, right? Those are different skills that we cover in capacity building training, which are very informal. It's not very formal. It's informal learning area.
It's
Cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to be so beneficial in the future, when you decide you want to sit on a board, at a nonprofit, if you want to be on, now you understand how the process works and how
Right.
it goes. And it's great.
Even the level of understanding, even more so than most adults.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And also like if you don't see yourself serving on a board, like these skills in general, will just like serve you in any position.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
you decide to, be in the future.
And for college, as competitive as things are, it
Yeah.
really looks good on your application.
Right.
Absolutely.
I also learned about focus area work. So, Chair Rios, can you talk a little bit more about what that is, and then maybe more specifically what your focus area work is?
Yeah, so I will say focus area work is probably one of my most favorite parts about the commission. So right now I'm currently in the Aggie Square focus area.
Okay.
And so I'm actually going to the grand opening this Friday.
Nice.
But focus areas we have 3 focus areas. So we have Aggie Square, we have Youth Voice, and we have Youth Mental Health. And so what we do in those 3 focus areas is target them as far as like, they're almost just like team, how do I say it? How do I word it? They're like separate teams on the commission.
Okay.
So different commissioners will sign up for different focus areas. And so what we'll do in those focus areas is, some commissioners are really passionate towards mental health. I'm really passionate. Obviously, I do love mental health and mental health awareness, but I do also really appreciate harnessing innovation. And so that's why I signed up for the Aggie Square focus area. But I think focus areas provide us with an outlet to express how much, express what we want to see in, youth future and what we value and, see that forward. And so I think with Aggie Square, especially, it's a $1 billion innovation center. So I've helped, with community listening sessions. So we've gone to a couple high schools and held listening sessions there with the high schoolers to see what programs they'd like to see at Aggie Square. Some of the programs brought up were, how do I, sign up for scholarships? How do I, learn a new language, and public transport opportunities and internship opportunities. Some youth are interested in getting an internship at one of the science buildings there with scientists who are researching, groundbreaking biomedical tools. And so these are just amazing things that, decades ago, or even, when my parents were growing up, it's not something that you heard of, a youth going to a laboratory to pioneer some, future biomedical tool. And so I think it's great to harness this innovation and, create a youth community that's excited for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about like different ways of civic engagement already, right? In your opinion, what does civic engagement mean to you?
So I think a lot of civic engagement is just being present, being present in your community. But also I do feel like sometimes civic knowledge and civic engagement can kind of get mixed up. So, in school you learn about, how the government works, and sometimes even there are disparities about that. But when it comes to civic engagement, you are taking an active role in that. And you are not only working for yourself or working to make things better, in a self sense, but in a community sense.
Right.
And it's really about civically building a community and building a community that feels heard. I feel like oftentimes even our council member or mayor can be seen as some, held on a pedestal, right? They are these, really big city figures, but at the same time, we can see them as facilitators. And so that's what I like to tell youth that I work with is like, they're like facilitators, they're here elected by us to, gather all of our inputs and put it into city plans and different departments as far as their plans for the future. But it's really about being in a civic position or taking a civic position yourself to bring forward to change in the community.
Yeah, I like how you broke it down between knowledge and engagement. That's a good point. Like, you might know how everything works, but what do you do with it, right?
Yeah.
And so the engagement comes to action, right? To get involved and then go deeper and to apply and make sure that your voice is being heard. I like that.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, let me just say, you're explaining all of these things like a champ. I feel like when I was a sophomore in high school, I've been like, engagement.
That's why I've been bragging about him.
engaging.
And before we go in, I'm just curious, like, we've learned about your role as a commissioner. Like, tell me a little bit about you. Like, what's your plan? Because I just see greatness. So I just want to know, like, where are we going to see you in the future?
Outside of school, I like spending time with my friends, especially my siblings. My siblings are really my best friends.
Oh, my God. I think I've never heard that before. you like your brothers and sisters? Oh, I love that.
Unfortunately, I do.
You might be a perfect kid. You might be.
Well, I mean, I'm stuck with them, so there's really nothing other, to find good in them. But I like to go on runs with my siblings, so we go running a lot, around McKinley Park, or we go study together at different coffee shops. And so it's me, and I have an older sister who's in nursing school here at Samuel Merritt University.
Ooh.
So yeah, she's getting her master's in nursing, and then a brother that's a year younger than me. And so we all stick together, and we like to see, the future and things. And so for me, as far as my future, I really want to go. My dream college is probably Columbia University in New York. I really want to go to a bigger city, but eventually come back to Sacramento and see everything that's, going to be changed, and even taking a civic role myself.
Right.
And so, as far as like career aspirations, I'm interested in going into law. As far as what type of law, I'm not really sure yet, but I do like finance as well. So maybe something in that aspect, but definitely regardless of what career you take, I think there's always a specific way for you to take a role in civic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, no matter like what career you're in, what road you're down, everyone always, has a say in their community because you're living in it, you know what you experience better than anyone else.
Right.
Please shout out your parents because they did such a great job. Give your parents a shout out, whoever you want.
Say hi to your siblings.
Okay, I'll give a shout out to, my parents. Thank you for everything that you've done to make me into the person I am, but also to my grandparents too. They really helped raise me and put me in positions when I was younger to do the best thing for myself. Just get into a little bit of my grandparents here. They are, especially my grandpa, he's probably one of the biggest influences on my life.
Wow.
My parents would go off to work at like 5 a.m. on work days, right? But my grandparents would come at 4 a.m. from their house and make us breakfast and take us to school. And, we'd come home to a meal and everything, and they'd help us with our homework. And they were always there. And it was not like my parents, didn't want to be in my life. They were working.
Oh, yeah,
and I think that's a situation for a lot of youth. And so I'm so, so grateful to have grandparents that would, come to my house at 4 a.m. and leave at 6 and, just be in that constant rhythm, but that constant rhythm is, really what made me who I am today.
Yeah, it absolutely takes a village to raise a child.
It definitely
you had
does.
a dope village. So that's
Thank
good.
you. And it's also about, civic engagement too is really about building a village.
That's right.
Are you just going to be all about yourself and even all about your just immediate family, or are you going to extend it to your neighbors and your family, friends, and everybody else to create such a big, thriving, overarching just community?
I love that.
I just want to know really quick though. Your grandparents came over at 4 o'clock in the morning. What time did y'all eat breakfast and wake up?
So let's see.
That's like hella early.
Well,
I'm sitting up here thinking about, like, if I call my mom at 4, I'm getting cursed out, hung up on, like.
Why you calling me? Is there an emergency? Are you hurt?
Yeah, school, elementary school, it would start at like 7:30.
Okay.
So I think they would come early. They'd, get our lunches ready and everything.
Oh, they have to do lunch.
Oh, mom, you hear this? You better step it up, mom. You better step it up.
I mean, they were just so. I mean, my parents, especially my dad, works a hard job, and so I think it's really about. I wouldn't say my parents. There were days that they made us lunch, and they always made us feel valued and never just left aside. But it was really, them, and they still are. As my grandparents got older, they couldn't help us as much, and my parents, who have worked their way up in their jobs, are now able to spend a lot more time. And my mom's even looking into retiring soon, so it's really nice.
Get a grandparents a break after waking up at 4. The people need a break. Jeez.
Yeah, but I think it was also them. Growing up, they grew up. My grandpa immigrated here from Mexico City, early on. In the 1900s, I think it was in the 1960s. And so, coming here and, the village that he had built at home, bringing aspects of that. And I think it's really a cultural thing too. I see a lot of my family members doing the same thing, but it's about, I think sometimes the American dream can confuse things with just, when you're older and everything that you're just, going to go on vacations and doing everything, and spend time by yourself and maybe with your spouse. And I think that's great too, and I do want to do that, one day. But it's also about giving back to maybe your kids and just creating a family, and really a village. And so I really thank them for that. They live with us now, and so we've taken them on a couple vacations and gotten them to experience so many things. And so I really am grateful for them and my parents as well.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Takes a village. When you have a village, you get a kid like this.
One of my last questions I have for you guys, and this is for both of you. We talked a lot about how people can get civically engaged, what that looks like. There's different levels to that. Why do you think people aren't engaged civically?
I think a part of it is not seeing themselves in that space. Going back to what I said about, council members or the mayor being put on a pedestal, I think it's sometimes like you see in the movies, where there's just these corrupt politicians who are, going to make decisions without me, and my voice doesn't even matter. If I do decide to project my voice, I'm just going to get suppressed by other people and other adults. And so I think everything it really is about is making a safe space for people. And so ensuring that everyone has a place to shine their brightest. How one person may shine their brightest is different from another. Some people are outstanding in creativity, and others are outstanding when it comes to math and English. And so there's different ways for students and even just youth overall to expand their community in their best way possible. And I think it's about, educating and making knowledge and, how do I say it, spreading the word about, just because you might not look or might not feel like this perfect person for a certain role doesn't mean that you can't be.
Right.
Just to piggyback off that, what Chair was saying, yes, we don't always necessarily see ourselves represented in the work. So you might look at city council, you might look at your state representatives, you might look at different people who are in charge and have a say in the decision making. So I think, yes, that's part of it. But I also think we have to broaden our definition and our understanding of what it means to be civically engaged, right?
Yes.
So let's get back to what Chair Rios was saying when it came to having the civic knowledge, but also civically learning, right? So I think civically learning and having civic knowledge is equally as important as taking that knowledge and putting it into action, right? So you have to broaden your understanding. And when you broaden your understanding, when you broaden the definition, it broadens the reach of people who can be included in it. Right. So you have an individual, as a person, I have an individual civic role and responsibility. That may be voting. That may be showing up to my council meeting, reading the staff reports, knowing what's going to be talked about, right? In my individual role, I can do a lot. When I partner up and I find other people in my community, we can do even more. We can then also build a coalition, right? So I think it's broadening the definition so people can see themselves in all all that encompasses civic engagement. All that encompasses what it means to be in our communities and build a village. I think I really liked what Chair Rios was saying about a village, and you all affirming him and saying it does take a village, right? But I think we have to go back to seeing the value in the village and being community with one another, because if we don't value our village and we don't build community and we don't build coalition, then we don't get a Chair Rios. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
we don't get commissioners who are up on the dais and are very bright and well-spoken and very, very well said, right? So I think we do have to be mindful of, let's broaden our understanding, let's broaden our definition, and when we do that, we include more people. And then we can focus on our village and building our village and making sure everybody in our village is successful.
And I do want to add that, being a part of a village, it doesn't have to feel like a job. My grandparents, I don't think they ever felt like they were forced to do this. It was really something that came out of their hearts, and I think it comes out of everyone's hearts, really, when it comes to being an adequate and a true village. A village, how would you say someone that lives in a village? A villager.
Yeah, that's it. That was it.
So when it becomes becoming a true villager, it means, doing it from the heart and doing it that doesn't feel like work, but what feels like just loving one another around you.
Yeah.
I made my mom sign a grandparent contract before I had a kid. And so I was like, I will take you on Judge Judy. Like, there are some certain
roles and
things.
responsibilities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did she sign it?
Absolutely. That's why she has a grandkid.
Okay.
I might need a copy of that, y'all.
And we'll have a link for that contract, right? No, just kidding. I really want to thank you guys for coming on and providing this perspective, your voices. It making me think about like how we think about, especially right now when things are so divisive, right? By providing a village, we're encouraging folks to come out and work together on things, right? And I think what's been missing is people being accepted as to what their strengths are, and then looking at that as being engaged civically as well, right? Right now, it's things have to be done a certain way. But what it sounds like you're telling me is like if you're more inclusive and if you're broadening that range of what it actually means to be civically engaged, then we're going to have more people that are interested in doing that per se. So that's really like my takeaway from this whole discussion today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again. I swear, everything y'all were saying, it was like spoken word. If I knew how to snap, I would.
We always say representation matters, but youth is like, we want to be represented too. So I love it. And please never stop what you're doing. And it's a pleasure having you as a guest.
How are we looking on time? Is that it, Greg?
Yeah, this is our time.
Okay, well, I hope all of y'all who are listening are feeling just as inspired as we are. So thank you again to our amazing guests. And
Chair Rios.
Yes, Chair Rios, Domynique, thank you so much. And thank y'all for vibing with us. Don't forget to follow us on social media, YouTube, and Spotify. And we'll catch you next time.
Now go hit the button.
Oh, you don't have to tell him twice. He be over here.
He practiced restraint there.
I did. I did it once already,
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Take it easy. Peace.
Bye.